Well, I even know the challenges of
catch it. And they're like, oh yeah, thanks. Great. Pretty much absolutely.
I'm not sure how to grab it like that.
I lost my crew.
Oh
You know, you didn't see it. There was this group of youngsters, about your daughter's age.
no! How did it go?
Got on the board and were chanting. They were like 5 or 10 of the board.
He's the only one that yeah, you see how you just leave it open like that? Yes, yeah. I keep a first-time picture. Like I understand, but not on my phone right now.
Can you do so?
Oh, you mean what's happening here? Oh. Yeah, this is the there's a bunch of stuff going on this march.
Good afternoon. Now, could you give me something back so I know you're there? Good afternoon. I am the Reverend Maggie Henderson. I'm the chair of the Interfaith Council, and I am thrilled to be here, as you should be. I welcome you on behalf of the Interfaith Council, and not that kind of, I'm glad you're here and I'm never kind of see you again, hi. I welcome you in the sense of hospitality. The sense of hospitality that wants welcome and rest and safety and justice for all of God's people.
Right on.
It's the kind of welcome that
Really?
says you are not a stranger, but you're part
Change
of my
the world.
family. You are the beloved.
Really?
And so I ask you today to see someone and to greet them and actually talk to them and don't let them go a stranger. Martin Luther King in a prayer said, pray and sing, but that is not enough, you have to act. So you do a welcome today that acts so all people will have justice, that we address the issues of race and poverty and violence in this world, so all will be welcomed and be safe. And so you drink this in today.
I'm just kind of worried about what's happening in France. You know
Oh,
what's real
yeah, I'm
scary?
done. Really, I am. I'm a good pastor. But now I get to introduce His Eminence Metropolitan Hieromos of San Francisco, the Greek Orthodox Metropolitan of San Francisco.
That's something to worry about. You know what I mean? And Ukraine too. Oh, God. Yeah. Got the hope for peace.
Good afternoon, everyone. A beautiful day that God shines upon us today. 50 years ago, this coming March, His Eminence Archbishop Iakovos, the leader of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of North and South America, held the office of the President of the National Council of Churches. In this capacity, history records the image of him walking beside and in solidarity with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on that historic march in Selma. As his spiritual son and his former assistant, I humbly stand before you today with my sisters and brothers of many faiths to honor the courage and conviction of Dr. King, a leader of faith who at that moment changed the course of history. Please let us bow our heads and pray. Heavenly God, we bow our heads before you because to gaze upon you only reminds us of our forgetfulness and all that you do for us. We confess that in our comfort we have grown indifferent to the suffering and oppression around us. We have become the rich man and rich woman, while Lazarus still sits at our doorsteps, waiting for the scraps to fall off the table. Yet, in your boundless love, you continually send us teachers who called us to do good, to seek justice, and to correct oppression. And on this day, we remember your servant Martin, who reminded us of your words when he cried out like the prophets of old, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Fill us with the same power of prayer and song that he sowed when others offered words and shouts of hate. Fill us with the strength to march to the same mountaintops that he marched towards when others would cast him into the abyss. Fill us with the same spirit of peace that filled him when others threw stones. As his spiritual progeny, who bear the moral responsibility of keeping bright his flame of hope, we entreat you to endow us, your peace-loving creation, with the needed virtues of patience, zealous conviction, discernment, and resolve to be vigilant in our common quest to ensure equal rights for all people. As difficult as it is, we also pray that you will give us the humility and strength needed to pray for the enlightenment of those whose own brokenness inspires them to oppress others and put obstacles in the way of deserved freedoms. On this joyous day, being together as one people in solidarity, let us take inspiration and hope from one another to recommit ourselves to emulate Dr. King's courageous and inspired example, and thus truly honor his venerable name. As people of faith, these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Good afternoon, good people of San Francisco. I'm Michael Pappas, Executive Director of the San Francisco Interfaith Council, and I join our Chair, Maggie Henderson, in welcoming you to this auspicious celebration, the birthday of civil rights leader, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. This year's observance is of particular significance as it marks the 50th anniversary of the March on Selma and the passage of the Voting Rights Act. Before we go a step further, we would be remiss if we did not extend a huge shout out of thanks to our friends at the Yerba Buena Gardens Festival and MGM Management Group for their incredible generosity in making this precious public space available right here in the backdrop of the Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial Waterfall. Let's also have a resounding round of applause for the Tabernacle Community Development Corporation, whose generous support helped underwrite a portion of the expenses for today's interfaith service. It is appropriate that we should come together for prayer and thanksgiving in an interfaith celebration, as not only was Dr. King a pastor of immeasurable faith, but every social justice and civil rights movement in our nation's history has been led by leaders of faith. In particular, in San Francisco, in those early days of the civil rights movement, before there was a San Francisco Interfaith Council, faith leaders from every tradition came together through the Conference of Religion, Race, and Social Concerns to proclaim with a unified and prophetic voice the Almighty's call for freedom and equality for all people. That prophetic voice has come not only from religious leaders, but from those whose faith has inspired them to answer the call to public service. We in the city of St. Francis are blessed to be represented in the United States Congress by just such a luminary of faith. Please join me in welcoming the Democratic leader of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Nancy Polosi.
Michael, I thank you to the Interfaith Council for once again bringing us all together. Thank you, Rabbi Maggie Henderson, the chair, Rita Semmel, the inspiration for it all, and we're all here. Earlier today, we honored Belva Davis for her work as well. Amos Brown, everybody is so important up here on either side of this podium, and I'm honored to join them. To say thank you to all of you who are once again showing up. When the Metropolitan spoke earlier, I think it's important to note that when he talked about Metropolitan Jacobos, it was very courageous for Jacobos to be at Selma 50 years ago. And when you see the movie, you will see the manifestation of the Greek Orthodox Church as president of the Council of Churches there, as Michael said, people of faith, honoring the dignity and worth of every person. I'm happy to be here each year. Today is last year was the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. Now we have the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. Let me give you a 1-minute report from Congress. This weekend, my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, led by our leader, Jim Clyburn, are in Ferguson. They're in Ferguson to address the issue of justice for all Americans. Next week, we will show the entire caucus, House Democratic Caucus, the movie Selma. So they will continue to be inspired by what many of us were inspired 50 years ago. And in the first weekend in March, I will once again go to Selma, invited by John Lewis, our colleague, bring my children and grandchildren to bear witness of the 50th anniversary. Christine, my daughter, who's here, has already been there for the 40th anniversary. Said, here's the thing. This is the March of Freedom, from Selma to the ballot box. Reverend King insisted that we vote. If you don't vote, you don't count. You absolutely must vote. And that's why this Voting Rights Act, which the court partially overturned, the Supreme Court last year partially overturned, it's absolutely essential that we reinstate the Voting Rights Act. The public has to weigh in on this. The anniversary for the Voting Rights Act is in August. So in the next 7-8 months, we must do everything in our power to make sure that by the 50th anniversary, we have a restored Voting Rights Act so people can vote. And by the way, while we have all this challenge out there, 1 in 5 children lives in poverty, despite all that the Reverend Martin Luther King did, and wasn't he a saint among us? Wasn't he a saint among us? 1 in 5 children lives in poverty. We have challenges of equality, whether it's equality of justice, equality of opportunity, in some places equality of marriage. With all of that, we don't agonize, we organize. We get out there and organize. We we are going to elevate the issue so that people have a reason to register, a reason to vote, so that people who share our values and share our views about the dignity and worth of every person, as we were inspired by Reverend Martin Luther King. Now, I always say it's inevitable. We're not going away until the job is done. We want it to be a shorter amount of time. It's inevitable to us. It's inconceivable to some. We want to shorten the distance between the inevitable to us and the inconceivable to them. Reverend Martin Luther King called it the fierce urgency of now. So we all have to buckle down, organize, get the job done, and in August we'll celebrate. So when we come together next year, we'll be able to celebrate that as we go into the future. I'm honored to be here as your representative in Congress. I'll be honored to be in Selma to represent you on the 50th anniversary of that march and represent you by fighting for the passage of the Voting Rights Act in the Congress of the United States. We don't agonize, we organize. Onward to victory for the American people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Leader Polosi, for that very inspiring message. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the president of the local chapter of the NAACP and a dear friend of ours, Reverend Amos Brown, who is here. We also have with us dedicated and hardworking servants elected to represent us and advocate on our behalf.